I can't believe it's already October. What a crazy year. My work has been seen by some massive names, more than I can even begin to list. I got to draw Andy No's portrait, for example, and even had my work shown on the Timcast, a show I watch almost every day. It's funny how careers can go. You can struggle to get your name out there for over a decade, climbing this mountain with your head down, and suddenly your destination crashes down on you like an inverted super combo in Puzzle Fighter. And then you realize there was no destination to begin with. The mountain just keeps going forever. Not only does it seem I've, quote, made it, whatever that means, the ground here is super fertile for the first time in my career and awaiting cultivation. For the first time, it seems like my only limitation is how fast I can draw, how hard I can work. I have seen indie creators take that for granted, but I don't plan to repeat their mistakes. Amazingly, I've managed to sell over 2,500 books this year, which is nuts. I've never sold so many, much less in a year, so thank you all. Best of all, these books were all made here at home with my own two hands and some equipment I bought, some of it secondhand. During a heavy fulfillment period, I can comfortably produce around 100 copies of books per day, so I'm okay for now. No need to buy extra equipment or hire staff, but if things continue on their current trajectory, who knows? I've been watching a bunch of documentaries about Image Comics and the 90s boom followed by the 90s crash in the comics industry. What caused these things, how these successes can be replicated, mistakes avoided. Back then, books like Spawn were selling in the millions. I also learned that if a book sold tens of thousands of copies, it was considered a failure. Here in my little office, I'm not even sure how I'd handle fulfillment on numbers like those. We're not talking about shipping that many copies, I mean selling tens of thousands. I guess I'd have to hire staff at that point, but that ruins the charm of buying handmade books. Maybe there's a sweet spot somewhere in the success. I'm definitely not anywhere close to too much success right now, but I do need to draw new books or I won't have any new ones to sell. A few months ago, I was shocked that I had 12,000 followers on Twitter, and now, somehow, I have 40.6k. I've seen similar growth on Instagram, where I now have 16k from 100 earlier this year, maybe? Even my little neglected YouTube channel is growing passively, and I barely update it. I wonder how much it'd grow if I actually used this thing. But I don't want to produce useless fluff. For instance, what if I was to do a show on the latest gaming and pop culture news with George? It'd be like, "What's up, fellow gamers? This is George coming at you live with the latest news. It seems CD Projekt Red is late again on Cyberpunk 2077. And have you heard the latest news about Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi? Kathleen Kennedy is gonna be out soon. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification bell to get all the latest news as soon as it happens. And be sure to join the George Army on Discord. Right now, George out." I mean, there's already a million people doing this. It'd probably be better for me to do things that only I can do, right? Maybe more of my Bob Ross-ish speed painting videos. Although I have to confess, I kind of get serious performance anxiety when I draw. I'm already anxious when I draw, and I have an even harder time drawing when I think people may be watching me. It's like those artists who sit in public parks or museums, kind of giving the body language of, "Hey, look at me, I'm an artist. Aren't you impressed?" At least that's the impression I get looking at them. And I'm also terrified of boring people and appearing like a show-off, so I don't really know what to do. And even me recording this right now, I'm like, who wants to hear me say this? And yet here we are. I'm still new to this indie career thing. It's sort of like freelancing. Not exactly, but close. Instead of pleasing a few clients for big commissions, I'm now pleasing tens of thousands of readers for a few bucks at a time. Still, I'm happy to keep climbing this mountain. The best web cartoonists have millions of followers, so who knows where the ceiling is? I've just got to keep climbing. There are still 3 months left in 2020, so I thought I would take some time to review what I'm working on now and what I plan to be working on over the next few months. My latest book here, the first few copies are shipping today, as a matter of fact. It's called Shitposts Issue 3. Issue 1 is the, I think, second best or possibly best selling book of this year for me. Topping Mary Sue, or at least it's at the level of Mary Sue 1 and 2, which is pretty nuts. I'm super honored that my little collections of what I thought were throwaway comic strips are being enjoyed by hundreds of people, maybe thousands. It's such a weird time in comics history, especially for me. Even Charles Schultz and Bill Watterson had to collect lots of strips to make their compendiums, but these days consumers seem to be happy with a 36-page premium printed book. That's pretty cool. Issue 3 here, which I'll put an image up, is the latest, most up-to-date as far as my current events strips, as well as a couple of really old ones that were popular like 5 years ago. So it's an interesting little time capsule. I think it's worth buying. I've also been sitting on a collection of older strips that I've drawn over the years, which have sat on my hard drive collecting dust, so I think I might collect those into an 80-page special edition of Shitposts that I'll call Shitposts 0. At some point, I'd also like to collect the individual Shitpost issues into an omnibus. As of right now, I'm not sure whether I'd like to combine issues 0 through 3, or wait until issue 4 and exclude 0, have it be its own edition. I also may stop offering issues 1 through 3 as individual copies once they're replaced by the omnibus, which will give those individual copies a little more rarity and value, which I hear customers of comics appreciate. When you buy my individual issues early or help me crowdfund them, I probably will discontinue them at some point, sort of like the first editions of Mary Sue shipped without laminated covers, 10 months ago? I won't be making any new ones of those. They're all sold out, so maybe they'll be valuable someday. And to be honest, I don't know much about the secondary market. But anyway, I'll talk more about Mary Sue in a moment. As for October, now that Shitpost 3 is ready to ship, my hands are free to work on a book called Oh No, It's Uncle Joe. It's a silly and spooky book about a town where all the parents go crazy every 4 years and all the kids have to survive a crazy Halloween. It's got occult rituals, monsters, and a few interesting twists that I'm hoping may make it a decent Halloween book, worth pulling out and reading even after this year. I don't want to just make an opportunistic product. I want this to be a real book that people keep and show off to their friends, kind of like scary stories to tell in the dark when I was growing up. That said, I do have to make absolutely sure this book is at least completed before the elections in November, or it'll lose a lot of its relevance and spook factor. Plus, if one candidate or the other wins, the story will be out of date. So this month is going to be pretty hectic. Not rushed, but hectic. As a side note, I have a bet with my family that Trump is going to win with 70% of the popular vote, though after what I believe was a terrible performance during the first debate, I'm not sure if that's going to affect things. Plus, we just learned this morning that he caught Rona. He has been doing a lot of campaigning lately, so it makes sense that he caught it unless... what if someone intentionally gave it to him? That'd be a conspiracy for the centuries. I do hope he and his family get better soon, though. Aside from his age, he's a pretty healthy guy, so he should be fine. Now, either way, current events aside, there's still a lot of work to be done on the Uncle Joe book. Once these books are shipped, Shitpost 3, it's just a straight line between now and the end of that throughout the entire month. So there's been almost 100 pre-orders on Etsy. So I've got to get those on the road as soon as possible, and if you want a copy, I'll have links below. I'll talk about that more at the end of the video. As for November, immediately after Uncle Joe ships, I'm going to be working on Mary Sue issues 3 and 4, which have collected over $9,000 in funding as of this recording, which is amazing to see. And to be honest, surprising. I'll be talking more about Rosemary's Adventures in future videos once I hit full production, and I'll also be collecting issues 1 and 2 of Mary Sue into a new softcover edition, or format, which might be how I offer Mary Sue in the future. The crowdfunding campaigns and pre-order customers will receive the rare single issues, rare only because the paperbacks are going to be more affordable, easier to produce, and probably less expensive. They're more suited for a general audience. Although I understand that collectors like the single issues, and they can be valuable because of their rarity. Not artificial scarcity, mind you, but they do take a fair amount of time to make per day, and I would rather spend that time drawing instead of making books. So as of right now, I'm the only employee at this little company. So I got to do what I have time for. On a related note, though, since this campaign did well, I was thinking of investing in a Cintiq screen tablet to increase my production speed. I've never used one before, though, so I'm not sure whether I'm willing to plunk $1,000 down on something I may or may not enjoy using. I guess we'll see. As for December, I'll continue Mary Sue and possibly release a book called Olympus, which you may have already read if you're one of my patrons. I finished it already. I do my best to release my most current pages as I draw them, a sort of subscription model mixed with digital editions. So that's Patreon. I may release a printed version of Olympus, though, around this time, let's say the holidays, depending on a certain factor outside my control that I don't want to talk about in Jinx right now. Olympus is a humble little story, though, kind of charming, about a group of kids who have to climb a mountain and encounter all sorts of obstacles along the way. One by one, they all quit, or something happens, right? One of them maybe falls and gets hurt or something like that. As for the rest of the year, in general, barring any delays, Mary Sue 3 and 4 should ship in February 2021, which is, I think, 4 months from now, 5? At which time I'll probably resume Bad Dreams issues 2 through 4, and we can see where things stand in terms of my follower count then. I don't have any plans to expand. I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, keep drawing and selling new books. To be honest, a few months ago I was getting ready to put my comics career on the back burner and go back to freelancing or something else. My work wasn't being seen by enough people that I thought I could do it full time. Since the Mary Sue campaign has concluded and it's in demand, I'm a bit more comfortable confessing that Mary Sue Thalassania was a sort of Hail Mary project. I think I launched it when I had 12K followers on Twitter. I wanted to see if that would be enough people to successfully crowdfund a book. Before my unexpected growth, it looked like the answer would have been a hard-fought maybe. My experiment was to see how many readers one needs to successfully crowdfund a comic. I believe the answer is somewhere around 15K, though it may be more. Earlier last year, I was doing a lot of guesswork on YouTube shows, which was flattering but didn't mix well with my personality. I'm sure, as you can tell from listening to this, I'm not especially gregarious or extroverted, and I can't stand spamming my readers or transparently attempting underhanded marketing tricks like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I'd rather sell fewer books, I think, and earn real sales rather than sell a bunch of books based on tricking my audience into thinking on this charismatic second coming of Stan Lee who only releases one book a year or even longer, or something stupid like that. Still, I think I owe my growth lately to this make-or-break mentality. It isn't good to rely on other people's follower counts and build phony relationships. I took a few career risks to draw spicy comic strips lately, knowing that I had nothing really to lose, and it ended up opening a huge door for me. One lesson I can say I've learned through all this is that risks contain the possibility of both failure and success. The only time you go nowhere is when you're inert, when you don't take risks. I've made a video somewhere on this channel, somewhere about that, of not being afraid of failure, and not being afraid of mockery. Anyone who would mock you for experimentation, I said back then, is a fool who should be stepped over, not interacted with. And this year, though I haven't commented on it much, I've taken some secret pleasure in stepping over fools who mocked me in 2019. I'd love to rub their faces in it, to flick their shit-covered noses, stained brown from riding other people's tailwind so closely for years, but that would be beneath me. On the subject of experimentation and its relation to failure or success, I would like to publish at least one illustrated novel in 2021. I've written several graphic novel scripts over the years, including one that's 300 pages long, that's text. Now, if it were drawn in a sequential art medium, it would total at least 2,500 pages in length. At 35 years old, with my drawing rate of 1 to 2 pages per day, that would take at least 5 years to produce, and that's if I didn't take any time off. So, methinks prose is in my future. Maybe I'll do an audiobook version too. I've been told my voice is a decent, if perhaps overly relaxing, reading voice. Now, I do want to keep drawing comic books like Mary Sue and Bad Dreams and more, but I can't ignore that the current event comic strips I'm drawing are my most popular work by far. I've been told this in a certain way. I, George, have the desire to write a Lord of the Rings, but my audience is here because I draw Charlie Brown. If my day job is drawing comic strips, then my night job can be drawing comic books. And if that's true, that's fine by me. Books are books, and as long as people are interested in reading what I make, I'm happy to keep making it. The truth is, I'm busier than I've ever been, but that isn't a bad thing at all. Between my various platforms, I'm earning a decent living somehow that I can sorta justify making comics full time, on the condition that I don't take my foot off the gas for the foreseeable future. You'll hear no complaints from me, though. Anyone should be happy to be employed at all in today's climate. Still, it is interesting to note, if I went back in time and talked to my past self, perhaps just entering my first and only year at art school, I might warn him that it's taken 2 decades of training to be a fully independent artist. I currently work 50-hour weeks and 60 during heavy production to earn as much money as perhaps an assistant manager at a Burger King. The payoff, though, if there are two, is that I do work for myself and that there is no ceiling to my growth. I set my own hours and I can work from home. I've seen amazing creators struggle to make ends meet, and I've seen sham creators earn tens of thousands off books that haven't even been released yet. And it's been maybe a year and a half, 2 years in some cases. That's not very professional, my friends. This is a crazy industry, the indie comics scene at least, but one thing's for certain. The more readers a creator has, the more books they can sell. The more income they earn, the more books they can write and draw, and thus the snowball gets bigger and bigger. I have no idea where this train is going. It seems I've made it over some kind of major hill these past few months, though. If I were to guess, the trick to success would be 1. Avoiding drama. 2. Being my own creator. 3. Not kissing anyone's ass. And 4. Producing insane amounts of content that people want to read and share around. It really is that easy and that hard. And who knows what'll change between now and the new year. Maybe I'll have even more growth and insights to talk about then. I hope you listeners are with me for the ride in the meantime. I'll be drawing like crazy, and if you want to support me and my work, I'd invite you to check out my Patreon. That's probably the best way to support me. If you'd like to buy some copies of my books, including the latest shitposts and upcoming Mary Sue on Indiegogo, there are links to my Etsy shop and the campaign down in the description. And that's it for now. I'll thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.